Okay, for the beginning of episode 6 here, I just wanted to touch on something called escape characters. So, I've written out a little string here, I've assigned it to X, and I'm sure everyone knows by now that the problem with this is that we have the quote, this is ending this string, and then we have just a word that's not a variable that's assigned to anything, Sam, and then we have another string. So Python doesn't understand that I want all of this to be one string. And we covered this in episode 1 or 2, but there's something you can use called an escape character. So if you want Sam inside of this sentence, you can do a backslash here and a backslash there, and you see this tells Python that we want it to print that. And so now when we print it, you see my friends call me Sam if they grew up with me. So we'll go ahead and clear that terminal, and we'll just run it again, Py. My friends call me Sam if they grew up with me. Now, if we remove these escape characters, save, and we run it, you see there's an error, and it's saying that the word Sam is an error. And there's different types that you can use. You can do backslash, you can do new line, which is like a return on a keyboard. So we'll just show you that one, because that's one that I have some familiarity with. We have to also escape Sam here, or it won't work. So let's go ahead and test those out, 2 in a row. So you see my friends call me Sam, return, new line, if they grew up with me. And you'll see this in a lot of coding languages, new line, so that's a good one to get familiar with. So you also have carriage return, you have tab, you have backspace. So we can even try, see if we can do 2 in a row here. Save, I guess I should probably take out that space, but that's okay. So now you see that it's new line plus it's indenting it with tab. So that's really good if you're trying to do anything like make a book writing app or something like that, and you want it to format. We have backspace, form feed, octal value, and hex value. So just a quick touch up on those before we dive into anything else. Alright, now just a quick note on string methods. W3 Schools has a whole list of these. You can test all of them out. You can learn about more there. I just want to make you aware that they exist. So I've commented them all out, and I've zoomed in here so you can see it better. We'll get rid of the terminal. So you have all of these methods and functions for strings. You have capitalize. It converts the first character to uppercase. So like I was talking about before, how a lot of times you'll split and join to do something like that. Python's already taking care of that for you. Case fold converts the string into lowercase. Center returns a centered string. Count returns the number of times a specified value occurs in a string. This is a problem you'll see a lot, like in beginner problems and stuff. Encode returns an encoded version of the string. Ends with, so this returns a boolean, true or false, if the string ends with the specified value. Expand tabs sets the tab size of the string. I have never used that. Find, search the string for a specified value and returns the position of where it was found. This is something that you will use, and feel free to mess around with all of these as I go through them. Format we covered. If you don't remember that, that was episode 5, and you can go back and watch that. Format map, formats specified values in a string. Map is a pretty good method in and of itself to know in a lot of ways. A lot of languages have a map function or method. Index searches a string for a specified value and returns the position of where it was found. So this will return the index of where it was found, which is very useful sometimes. Instead of like a boolean or the value, it will return the index. This is all num, so it will return true, a boolean value if all characters in a string are alphanumerics. Is alpha returns true if all of them are in the alphabet. Is a decimal returns true if all characters are decimals. Is digit. Is identifier. Is lower. And is lower is different than lower. Remember, we use lower and upper to change the actual string. Is lower is just returning a boolean if all of them are lowercase. So you could do that if you want something to be case sensitive. You could check it like for validation, make sure it's all lower. Is numeric, is printable, is space. So this checks to make sure they're all white spaces, which we went over how you can remove that, remember. Is title, is upper, join. So joins the elements of an iterable to the end of a string. So that's like you can combine multiple strings with that. We'll use join later. left justified, so L just returns the left justified version of the string. Lower, we've already covered. L strip, which is a left trim version of the string. Make trans, which returns a translation table to be used in translations. I've never messed around with that. That actually sounds kind of fun. Partition, it returns a tuple where the string is parted into 3 parts. We will cover tuples later. We haven't touched on tuples yet. Really, we just touched on strings. Replace, return a string where the specified value is replaced with a specific value, or specified value. R find, R index, R just. So these are returning things, the values for the last position where it was found. So pay attention to stuff like if you're using these methods when it says the last position. So R just returns the right justified version of the string. R partition, so it returns the tuple again. So it's just like this, except for it's returning a tuple where it's parted into 3 parts, and it's probably the R partition here. So this one's doing the same thing as this one, so partition and R partition. So maybe mess around with them and see what the different outputs are. R split, R strip, regular split, which we've already covered, split lines. So this will do it at line breaks and return a list. Starts with, so this is a Boolean output if the string starts with a specified value. So this one would take a value as an argument, and it will search and then return a Boolean if it starts with that value. Strip returns a trim version of the string. Swap case swaps cases, lowercase becomes upper and vice versa. So that's a quick way to swap cases. That's also like a problem you might run into if you're doing kind of like any kind of DSA problems. You might run into something like that. Title converts the first character of each word to uppercase. Translate returns a translated string. I'm going to go mess with these myself. Upper converts a string into uppercase, and zfill fills the string with a specified number of 0 values at the beginning. So that's just the string methods on Python, and again, I use W3 Schools as my reference on all of this stuff. I highly recommend going there. It's just the letter W, the number 3, the word schools.com, and you can look up pretty much everything from every language that I've ever heard of. There's something available on that site. Stack Overflow is another great resource, and of course YouTube. At this point, we're pretty much done with the strings for now, and there's some exercises on W3 Schools that I would recommend going and trying out. They're the Python string exercises. They give you a pretty good guidance on what they want and just ways to test out several of those methods that we've covered. We have gone over everything that you will be practicing in those exercises, and it's just a good way to help remember all of this information that you're getting.